Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here with us this evening. I'm Darlene Gillen. I'm the Alumni Relations Director here at MassArt. We're glad you're here with us for the Informational Interviews for Creatives workshop. This is the last session of our three-part Building Career Connections series with Sabrina Woods. And it is so good to see some familiar faces from our previous sessions. We will be using breakout rooms this evening and encourage you to have your cameras on. Before I introduce Sabrina, I would like to take a few moments to thank my fellow colleagues in Alumni Relations and Career Development for all of their work in bringing Sabrina's series to you this evening and ask them to wave hello. First is Megan Cronin, Assistant Director of Alumni Relations, and Meg Gatterman, she's our Student Outreach Manager.
Hello.
And Mary Ellen Schroeder, Director of Career Development will be joining us later on. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Sabrina Woods. Sabrina is a holistic career coach and LinkedIn trainer, speaker, and consultant. Sabrina's clients have included Harvard University, MIT, RISD, Tufts University, Children's Hospital, Mass College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, Simmons College, MassArt, Harvard Medical School, and the Career Counselors Consortium. Her interactive and engaging style is what drew us in to have her offer this three-part series. All three of Sabrina's presentations, Enhancing Your LinkedIn Profile, Networking Tips for Creatives, and this last session will be recorded or have been recorded and will be on the Career Development's YouTube channel. And Meg will pop in the link to that during our session. Sabrina, take it away.
Darlene, thank you so much. I am delighted to be back. I was saying earlier, I'm a little sad it's our last session because it's been, like I said, it's been nice to see familiar faces. It's been nice to connect with the alumni office and the career services office at MassArt. So really appreciate being here. And I guess we're going to get ourselves underway. As some of you know, I make this pretty interactive. And it's also personal. I want you to have some time to do some work for yourself. And so I'd love it if you could have paper and pen handy. So take a moment, look around. Do you have some scrap paper? Do you have a notebook? We're going to do a little exercise during this to help you think about your network and who you might like to talk to. I also put this slide up. Sometimes it gets annoying with the chat popping up constantly. So what I found when I'm a participant in a Zoom is I open up chat all the way, I click the top and I drag it down. So again, I don't know if we're going to have it too active, but just wanted you to know that's an option if it starts to bug you. All right. You already heard a little bit about who I am, but if you missed the LinkedIn session, feel free to go to sabrina-woods.com. I've got a lot of resources on my website and pretty good about getting them updated. So when things change on LinkedIn, I've got a 2 or 3 page handout on there that I try and change what it does. So I wanted you to know that's available. Now, what I want to do is find out how you are doing. And we're going to use Annotate. Some of you did this with me last time, but let's help you find this tool. It means you can actually type on the screen and add symbols and things like that. So to find it, look at the top of your screen for view options. Click there, and the third one down will be Annotate. And what we're going to do is ask you how you're doing by checking one of these boxes. So again, you're going to open up Annotate. Actually, I probably have to turn it on like this, and then you should be able to see it. And then you should be able to go and find like the stamps, buttons, and you can put a star or stamp. Are you guys able to do that, or is it restricting right now? Oh, there we go. Sorry, that should work. Now check it. I've got it enabled.
I see it.
Yeah. Are you able to, here it goes. Now I see it working. And play for a moment. You can even grab a text box and say something in there you want if you'd like, or some squiggles, some doodles.
I'm sorry, but is this on Google Docs? Or
is it on Google Docs?
Where can I find this?
Sure, let me go back a slide and see if
Sorry about that.
Oh no, let me just go back to show you how this works. Why is this not going back? Well, while I'm in annotate, it's not letting me go back slide wise. But what you want to go is you want to look at the very top of your screen and look for something that says view options at the top of the Zoom screen. Do you see a box that says Zoom options? Whoever was asking that? A box that says view options, and then you look a few down for annotate.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I know these little tricks take a little while to figure out. I like the smiley face on here. So we have some trying to keep our head above water. We've got some art coming in right there. That's great. We've got a couple hanging in there. It varies by the day or even the hour. Handful of half decent. And we've got some people saying, you know, I'm good considering. The new phrase a friend of mine said was COVID good, meaning given COVID, I'm good. Okay, that's one way to say it. All right. So it's just nice once in a while to take your temperature, see how you're doing, and ask yourself what you need in that moment. So I'm a big advocate for pretty good self-care in this extended period of challenge that we're in right now. So thank you for weighing in and letting us know how you're doing. All right, I'm going to clear the drawings now, and I'm going to turn off annotate, and that should allow me to go to the next slide. All right. I love starting with a few deep breaths for some of my presentations, or as many as I can sneak in. I love this. So I'm going to invite you just to do that. And the reason is you've had a busy day. By taking a few deep breaths, you get kind of like almost like a reset button, I think, so that then you can take in more information and kind of enjoy the moment a little bit more because you've had that little tiny breather. So the invitation is to take your feet and place them firmly on the ground. Notice where you're sitting. Actually take it in, kind of pay attention to where your legs are touching the chair, where your back is touching the chair, and I invite you to have a good posture. So you can have some really deep breaths so your chest is open. I'm going to have us inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, and exhale for 4 counts. Just think of it as a mini break. All right, here we go. Deep breath in. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. Slow exhale. Next breath in. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale. Last deep breath in. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale. And a breath or two at any pace you wish. Just noticing the inhale or the exhale for a second. Again, letting yourself arrive fully. All right. Thanks for letting me do that. Always feel better. Always feel better after a couple of breaths. Now I'd like to just invite us to share who's here today. And so inviting you to pop open the chat box, and your location can be, I'm sitting on the couch, or it can be, I'm in the city of Alston. And then can you think just simple question. What put a smile on your face this week? Might be a walk that you went on with your dog, just was good. It might be a conversation you had with a friend. It might be a piece of work that you did that just felt good. So simple things that put a smile on your face. It's just a way for us to kind of connect as people going through similar things, but trying to notice and take in the good that we have around us. It's a really good part of keeping our resilience up. So once we have a few of those added in, I'll give you a moment to type them in, and then we'll have Darlene read some. So just pop open the chat. And I'll encourage our staff to do the same.
We have Nada from Boston hanging out with a friend for the first time in a while. Jahari, she's in her childhood bedroom. My dad said he's famous and I should get used to it. He's not, he's just funny. Darby's here. Vathay is Boston based and I made some delicious French toast this morning. Sabrina from Providence, chatting with a friend over the phone. Angie's here from Connecticut, celebrating my friend's birthday. And Mayuri Saxena is, I'm in Boston right now. I have been watching a lot of stand-up comedy, the best part of the week so far. Darby is currently at Dorchester Art Project. Seeing Jahari in the Zoom call made me smile. I haven't seen her since MassArt was shut down last year.
Oh, nice. I love it. I love it. Cooking and friends and getting a chance to see each other. Good stuff. Thank you for sharing those.
French toast sounds really good.
And cooking, yes. Oh my gosh, I love French toast. What I want to say is that there are we're going to really encourage you as a cohort to network with each other. So later in the session, we'll have you grab your LinkedIn URL at the end and drop it in. So I'm giving you a heads up now. So at some point, open up your LinkedIn and the URL is the very top link so people can find you really easily. And there was a worksheet attached to this too. So you're welcome to go back to your email and get that worksheet. It's the same worksheet we did for last time, but I figured there's some people that didn't do both. So I wanted to make sure you had it. It's a elevator pitch kind of worksheet. All right, here, let me just tell you what we're up to today so they can kind of have a sense on where we're going. We're going to talk a little bit about that intro and pitch, introducing yourself, and actually put you in small groups to say hi, okay, and practice your pitch a little bit. Define what the heck is an informational interview. Who would you love to talk to if you had a chance to have a conversation? How would you find them? Because we're in this lockdown situation, right? And then we'll talk about making the ask. And I know every one of you is like, I hate asking for favors, so I get it. So we'll talk about that. The preparation for the informational interview, the follow-up, and then, so let's just say I've had a couple of these networking conversations. How do I keep them alive? What do I do to kind of maintain my network? Will be the final piece for tonight. All right. I have a personal wish for you, and that is my hope is that I help you increase your networking effectiveness, even if it's just a small amount. And I encourage you to push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone, not into what I call the terror zone. That's not a good place to be, but push yourself a little bit out of the comfort zone. I really want to be motivational so that you kind of have a little spark, a little bit of energy. I can do this, and that it's worthwhile. And this networking philosophy, hopefully, is something you have, whether you're looking for a job or not, that you just kind of adapt into or adopt part of it for your everyday self. And then last, but definitely not least, that you make some connections tonight with each other, and that we go beyond just tonight chatting, that some of you connect over a virtual cup of coffee, or heck, if you're in the same neighborhood, maybe you can even go for a socially distanced walk and have a chat. So who knows what's possible, but connections, really key part of what I'm hoping for tonight. Now, here's your first opportunity to have networking in action. And that is, we're going to put you into small breakout rooms. This is going to be, I guess, maybe about 4 to 6 people or so in the rooms. And I'm going to give you a second to think this through and actually write it down. So name what kind of work you have done and what's your future target. Think of this as mini pitch practice. How do I introduce myself? If I were in your group, this is an example of how I'd introduce myself. So if I want to talk about my work, I could say, in my work as a holistic career and life coach, I teach webinars and other trainings, as well as work with individuals who are making career transitions. One thing I'm thinking about next is seeing if I can take some of my resilience and mindfulness sessions and bring them into other settings beyond higher ed, such as corporate or nonprofit. So I'm going to give you a moment to actually think this through. If you were going to write, say, 2 sentences, and you can use your pitch worksheet as well, if that's helpful. What have you done and what's your future target? And it's super informal in this group. You don't have to have it right. You can even read it if that's more comfortable. This is your team. These are individuals that have your back. We're just doing it to see what it feels like so that you can feel more confident the next time you're in a breakout room at a professional association meeting, for example. So we'll give you a second to think that through, and then we'll put you into those breakouts. Darlene, thanks so much for adding that into the chat. That's perfect.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. So I'm going to look at the clock and I'm going to give you another 60 seconds before Meg can then, Meg, you can start working on those groups right now, dividing people up, if you don't mind.
All set.
So you can, okay, they're set. So I'm going to still give people another 45 seconds to think about it. It's so much nicer if you have a moment of quiet to say, what do I want to say at these 2 questions? Sometimes it's hard to know who's going to speak first in a breakout room. So I'm going to say, why not go alphabetical by first name? It'll make it a little easier if there's 4 or 5 of you. All right. Remember, it's not a test. It's just a fun practice. You're just getting a chance to get to know people, but practicing something in a safe space. So you're going to have 6 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and if you go around and you already get a chance to, everybody says their pitch or just kind of introduce themselves, you can just take it from there and have informal chit chat for a little bit. Remember, the whole goal is think about how you might be able to help someone else, you know, when you're hearing what people are where they're targeting, and think about what you need. So you can just have a dialogue about needs. All right, Meg is going to launch these, and you've got 6 minutes, and let's just go for it. You'll see an invitation pop up on your screen, and that will allow you to pop into that room. All right. That's great. Everybody's in. Eager for that informal chat. That's good. All right, people are making their way back. Okay. Hopefully that was nice to say hello to some fellow students and alumni. And like I said, we're going to go back into those rooms in just a moment, actually, but I'm going to put you to work even more next time. But let me get us started by asking, what is an informational interview? And if you've ever done one and you even want to come off mic, in fact, I'm going to stop sharing for the moment for this question. So the question is, what's an informational interview? If you want to put into the chat box, like, what is this? Because there's some people who've never done one and haven't heard of it or don't really know. and others of you that have done probably several. So you can put in chat box. You can also come off mute and just share. Some of you might even have stories about informational interviews. And I'd love to hear from you if you feel like sharing a story, if you've got one. It's quiet. No stories?
Oh, I'll share one.
Oh, great, Ed.
I've been thinking about it a lot, when I was at MassArt and I was getting out. And Paul Gunn of Gunn Studios, I don't remember the name of it. I can't find any information on the web, but he was a very well-established studio on Newbury Street. Cool, modern entrance. And I think he made it a point of seeing everybody. But when I met him, he was an older fella who only had one leg. And he was very friendly and kind of looked at your portfolio like just in a quick way. I don't remember much input, but I do remember he had a drawer full of candy. So I don't know if that's a really helpful thing, but what I really respect was the guy would see people and he was encouraging.
He would give you his time and you would
Yes.
encourage. And you need that as a student. Yeah, especially. That's great. Anybody else have a moment when you had a chat or want to say, what is an informational interview? Does anyone want to share what you think it is or questions you ask or what the heck are these things? And we can see, Darlene can let me know if there's anything in the chat box.
Yeah, Nada wrote a chat or meeting to learn more about a company, field, job, etc.
Perfect. A company, a field, a job, etc. All right. Well, I'll have a slide that'll come up that'll share kind of like the different things, but let me just stick here for a minute and say, I think of an informational interview as a flip interview. So instead of you being interviewed, you're interviewing someone else, like a reporter, like gathering information. Now these can be, I'll say back in the day, that could be an hour. You could be at someone's office or over a cup of coffee. Now they're more like micro asks. So it might be 15 minutes, 20 minutes, even 10 minutes, phone, video chat. But the idea is you want to learn something either about a field you're going to enter, or you're trying to learn about a potential career path, or you're trying to learn about a particular environment, like what's it like to be in the nonprofit versus corporate versus startup, etc. So there can be all different types of questions that you ask. And the idea is you might get some information that's incredibly helpful for making decisions about your career, or it might someone might say, oh, you really should go to this professional association. It's really good for performing artists, or it's really good for whatever area of design or art you're in. So you go to that event, and then it's there that you meet somebody that eventually you end up hearing about a job opening. So it sort of opens you up. But my favorite attribute of investing in having these conversations is if you have a conversation and then 6 months later or 3 months later, there's an opening at that organization, they're going to remember you most likely if you make a good impression. You might be able to say to them, I just saw that there is an XYZ position open. I'm really interested in it and would love to just see if I could pick your brain for 5 minutes as I'm crafting the cover letter, as I'm putting together my application. Your feedback would be so helpful. They're going to probably say yes. You get 5 minutes and you learn a little bit. That individual may also send your resume in to the hiring manager or to the HR person for in that particular situation. So it's like you're planting these seeds and others might be able to help you later on. One of my informational interview stories was before I went to grad school. I was having a huge career conundrum. I was being laid off from my corporate job and I was sort of like, I just made one promise. I wouldn't go get another marketing communications job, but that's all I knew. So I was doing these informational interviews, really wide, different kinds of areas, but I didn't even know they were informational interviews. I didn't know that term. I was just trying to get information about things like outdoor education. I was at a school learning about a ropes course, and actually I got a chance to job shadow St. Andrew's School. And 6 months later, I was doing some volunteer work, and the fellow volunteer said to me, "Did you know that St. Andrew's School is looking for an outdoor education part-time person?" And I was just like, "Oh, I know them." I was heading into grad school and I needed a job. I had 2 short phone conversations and landed a part-time job at this school. I was helping to run a ropes course and do outdoor education at this school for kids with some special needs and disabilities, ADHD and things like that. It was amazing, all because I'd had this conversation earlier on to learn. So you become memorable, and this is just this way of growing possibilities, growing connections. So let me just go back into PowerPoint here. And I'll say this, gosh, wait a minute. You know, if I could give college freshmen an assignment, it would be every year of life, do 3 informational interviews, whether you're looking for a job or not, because you'll learn in your profession and you can give back to other people. It's not just take, it's give back. And it will feed you and help you grow your career. So if I could do that, if I could make every college freshman commit, that's what I would do, because they're that valuable. They're my number 1 attribute for job search and career growth, is doing these informational meetings. So, all right, let me go back into sharing, and I'm going to kick off with one more story to go here. Let's see here. How's that going? So, quick recap, possible topics: how to prep for a specific career, you know, if you're starting out, how to make a transition into a different path, new developments in your field, and a particular organization's culture. What's it like to work here? Do I like this vibe? So I like to tell this story because it kind of reinforces this idea of to just do informational interviews all the time. And so I was traveling to the UAE, to Dubai, and I thought, I guess I'm a little bit of a career services geek, because I said, I would really love to find out what's it like in the UAE for someone who's a career coach. No, I had no idea. What's the job development, career development kind of feel like in another part of the world? So I went onto LinkedIn and Google, and I ended up reaching out to a woman named Stella, because she had a really good LinkedIn profile. Stella and I ended up having like a 2-hour meeting. Now, she was convinced I was trying to get a job in Dubai, because that's what, you know, a lot of people know, you're looking potentially for work. But I said, no, I'm really looking just to learn. Anyway, at the end of the conversation, I asked her, what do you do for your professional development? She told me there wasn't a lot for professional development in Dubai for the career counseling community. And I said, well, I'm going to be back in December. Maybe we can collaborate, and we can I can, you know, help you do a little bit of training. I love doing career development training of other people in my field. That little tiny seed idea grew and actually became the first annual Middle East Career Development Conference. And I was a co-chair. Now, I didn't do an informational interview to become a co-chair for a conference, but it's like, this is the kind of thing, you never know what could come out of it. Maybe you do an informational interview and the person you talk to really likes the kinds of things you like, and you end up deciding to do something entrepreneurial, right? So I stay really open-minded about what's possible with these kinds of conversations. Now, the other reason it's so important to bring up informational interviews is that a lot of people will say that statistics are anywhere from 60 to, I've seen quoted 60 all the way up to 80% of people will say that there was a person involved when they landed the job. They heard about the opening from someone, or it's like somehow there was a people connection that led you to knowing about that opening. And of course, you're going to have to use put your resume into this applicant tracking system as well. But if there's a people component, you're more likely to have that resume come up on the pile. So let me say just a few more things, and then we're going to give you a chance to think about who you might like to talk to in an ideal world. So I posted on LinkedIn about, I wanted to ask others, well, how valuable are informational interviews? And so what I heard back was definitely a 10. Exposure is great for everyone. I heard someone say, I encourage my high school students to do informational interviews. I thought that's really cool. And then another woman said, informational interviews were invaluable to help her decide to actually start a business. And she went on to say that these individuals who she spoke with later became her coaches and her role models. And she says, I will always be grateful. One other person responded, and he wrote, I actually chose 5 people from different industries to learn how my skills might correlate or transition to their worlds. So he met with a bank president, a VP of a paper mill, a CEO at a medical center, a city manager, and a community college president. Wow, is that a wide range of people, right? But here's what happened. He said, it's the best thing I ever did. Each had advice and suggestions. And the community college president, at a later point, even ended up hiring him. So these are incredibly valuable. And I want to give you a moment to think about who in a dream work scenario you might be able to talk to. So let's have you grab your paper and pen. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. I want you to start with the idealistic. I want you to think about who would you love to talk to. It could be, you could list somebody at a particular company, write the company name down. That's one option. Or it could be the type of job title. But think first idealistically. It's a brainstorm exercise. Just jot down whatever comes to mind. I'm going to give you a minute or two on this. Who would you love to talk to? Start with idealistic, and then I'm going to give you a practical question too. So the practical one is you can think about the job title that you're targeting to be in next, or the kinds of work that you might be wanting to do, related job titles, and company of interest. So you can get really concrete with these beyond the who you'd love to talk to. Going to give you 60 more seconds for that. Now there's an invitation to add into the chat box anybody from your list. You can jot in job title, company name, or a specific person's name. Because there's a chance that someone else here tonight might know somebody in that category and might be able to pass on a link, a connection. So it also gets you thinking more concretely about this. No, that was my alarm for the minute. So take a moment, think for real. We're going to talk about how you'd find this person and all those other details in a moment, but what's that job title? What are those companies? Where would you love to talk to someone? And you can drop it into chat. And then in a moment, we're going to go into breakout rooms. And you can also share this again when you first get into the breakout room. We're going to send you back to the same rooms as before, but I'm going to give you an assignment with a question in just a second.
We have some coming in. Do you want me to read them?
That'd be great.
Sure. Yingrong is interested in Beacon Gallery. Mayuri is interested in company Media Monks, multimedia designer. Ed is interested in a head of UX at Publicist Sapient. Mayuri Georgia Lupi at Pentagram. Angie Random House. Nada's interested in IDO, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and industrial designers. Ying Rong is interested in being a gallery manager. Darby is interested in Vice, Adidas, New York Times, a director of photography, a UX designer, or installation designer. Carol, Google, why not?
Yeah.
Vathe, product development team at Reebok. Heather, Harvard, MIT, trustees, DCR, environmental art programming, community engagement. Jesse, Target job, concept artist, related titles, video game designer, company, Hasbro. Ooh, I know somebody used to work at Hasbro.
There we go. So
He's an alum
each of
too.
you, an alum, yes, each of you take a look at that chat box. Do you know anybody in those categories? You can private message somebody right through the chat. Okay, it doesn't have to be to all, or you can say it to all because we'll all cheer you on. Hey, cool, we made a connection. So
Shari's doulas and at Darby Closet Mentor works for Adidas.
look at that. Yes. Love it. Good stuff. All right, here's what we got next. Hold on to those ideas about who you want to talk to so you can repeat it again when you're in the small group just for a second. And then we're going to have groups. One is one question. Group 2 is going to have a different question. Group 3 is going to have another question. So the idea here is you'll start with your main question, but you can always then go and ask one of the other ones, answer one of the other ones rather. So let's see here. How do you find people to talk to? Besides showing up on webinars and having these fantastic connections just drop in your lap, we got to get real, right? Where are you going to find people? So have one group one will tackle that. How do you make the ask? What do you say in the email? What's the proper language? And then group 3 is going to talk about what can you do to prepare so that you make the most of that 15 or 20 minutes, or maybe it's longer. So, whoops, let's see. We're going to go ahead and have Meg put up the groups again, and you'll go back into the same group. You'll have, I think we said 6 or 7 minutes for this. Once you're done talking about that first main question that your group is assigned, feel free to go to any of the other ones or any other part of networking. Just allow yourself that time to connect more. Okay, here we go. Meg, you can put those up. We'll take 7 minutes and I'll set my clock. All right. People are making their way back.
Julie.
Okay. So now I'm going to find out group number 1. Love for you to give us some ideas, and I'll stop sharing for a moment. Anybody in group number 1 willing to share how do you find people to talk to? Anybody up for that? You can just come off mic, represent your group, share a few ideas. Super informal, not a big deal.
Hello. So we talked about LinkedIn being one of those, online. Something that I had mentioned was showing up, like being present in places and in environments that you want to be in, and you'll likely find like-minded people in those spaces. And one of the examples I said in my yoga class, I meet people with all these different careers, but like everybody helps everybody with something random. And then Darby, I see you're unmuted. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think we also, when Jahari brought that up, we kind of had a conversation about how that applies to Zoom, and showing face in Zoom and kind of putting your name in the chat so that you're seen, and you're out there. I think we also talked about looking on companies' websites and kind of trying to scan and search if any information or contact information is available there. And I think we also talked about, if it isn't there, the possibility of possibly like cold calling a company to ask if you can be put in touch with a certain person. It was a little.
I like it. Good stuff. Be a little brave, right? Do a cold call email or even a cold call phone call. Yeah. Anybody else from that group or from any group want to weigh in on some ideas?
I have something to share. It's more of like my experience. I've been talking to a lot of people over LinkedIn, connecting with them. It has been really helpful. When I speak to them, I get a lot of feedback on my resume, my portfolio. It's like my also aim is to ask them for a referral sometimes just to ask them to just have a look at my portfolio so that they can be a possibility in the future. But it doesn't end up that way all the time, or I would say most of the times. And I remember sending a I saw just job opening, like a really cool job opening in Facebook, and I messaged a lot of hiring managers and recruiters, college recruiters. And it was so taxing. Like at the end, I remember messaging about 10 people or 15 people and kind of sending the same kind of messages or maybe changing them a bit. It was so taxing in the end, and none of them replied. And it's just so disappointing sometimes. And I don't know how to get out of that feeling.
I'm so glad you shared that, because we got to be honest with how hard this process can be. So there are times when people say yes to a meeting or to help. And there are times when you send 2 messages, maybe you've got 2 weeks apart, and you hear crickets. And it's just like disheartening. And you can do that over and over and over again at times. But you might do it 8 times, and then the 9th person says yes. And it's that 9th person that says yes that actually becomes a future mentor, or that tells you about an opening, or that 6 months later has an opening in her department. So we're asking for a lot of sort of self-confidence in a way that says, I have something to value and I'm not going to be defeated, right? It's really, and this pandemic and this being in this situation is really asking a lot of us, because we don't even have our normal ways in which we can meet people. So I'm really, really glad you brought it up. And I'm just going to say, don't give up, because it might be just that next one that helps, that makes the difference. And when they do, I want you to text me on LinkedIn and tell me so that I can share your story. And I'll be like, is it Mayuri? How do you say your name? Mayuri?
Yeah, that's correct. Mayuri.
Mayuri.
Yeah.
I'll be like, you need to hear Mayuri's story. She did like 14 messages and thought it was never going to happen. And then finally it did. I remember hearing a story once. I think it was Arnold Advertising. Are they even around? Is Arnold still around? Arnold Advertising? So I think it was with them. When I worked at Northeastern, a student did something crazy like 14 informational interviews and finally, or even might have been more, in the same organization, and finally landed a job there. But tenacious? Wow, it's a lot. So I think it's possible. We have to be professional. We can't be stalkers, but we have to be steadfast in this. Yeah, good stuff. All right, I'm going to jump us back into PowerPoint for a moment, and we're going to go back and forth, but just to do a slide or two, and then we're going to talk about group number 2. But this is what I've got on here. We've kind of already talked about, but referrals from your own network. Okay. Maybe somebody you know knows somebody that works there, right? So just check on LinkedIn or check within your alumni directory, things like that. And LinkedIn, I'm going to do a little deeper dive, but groups, invites, asking for introductions, because it's that one person who's removed, and then alums. Now let's talk about some ideas that are specific to LinkedIn. You imagine this scenario. You post an article on your homepage. So you've originated it. You found some content and you shared it. If a second level connection comments on it, you could send them a link invite them to be connected with you on LinkedIn and say back to them, thanks so much for commenting on my post. In fact, go back and forth, hopefully a couple times with them, then send them the invite. And then in your next message to them, you might say, hey, I'd really like to continue that conversation we started on LinkedIn. Would you have 10 minutes to chat sometime next week? Wednesday afternoons and Friday afternoons are great for me. Make it easy for them to say yes. All right. The next thing you can do is you can seek out content. So you can search content with and without hashtags so that you can find things to comment on. Here I did a hashtag supply chain and no hashtag with mindfulness. So I could see all these articles on mindfulness and then I could comment. They can be a third level connection and I can still comment on their post and go back and forth with them. So we can be proactive and not just think about only what's on our homepage, but we can go out there, and you can do this in other spaces too. LinkedIn just happens to be the space that I'm the most active in, but seeking out content, going back and forth with people, and then getting it to the point where you can have that phone chat was the goal. One more quick story. I really like the attitude of how can I help? So being of service on LinkedIn is just a great attitude because things might circle back to you. So my first level connection, Jim, posted that he says, for people looking for remote work, this other person, Byron Clark, shares favorite remote job boards. I add a comment. Here's what I added. Thank you, Jim and Byron. When you can see these are in blue because I used the @ sign to tag them, right? I said, I've been collecting resources for remote work to give my clients, and I'm going to add this post to my handout. So Byron and I at that moment were not connected, but I was able to tag him so he knew I'm going to use his work in my handout and give him credit. The next day, Byron sent me a LinkedIn invite. I was like, wow. I didn't even send him the invite. He sent it my way. And he's one of LinkedIn's top voices from 2019. That was a nice way for me to grow my network, not even trying. And that just circled back. So get brave, especially in that space, with reaching out to people and interacting on their posts. It helps people when you comment their posts, it gets elevated. And so you're helping them with their network when you do that. It's a good thing. Okay, next topic real quick before we go on to question 2 is, what about informational interviews on the inside? Maybe you're at an organization and maybe it's larger or maybe it's medium, but sometimes we forget to connect with people in other departments. So decide to be that person that says, well, you know what? Maybe I'm going to just have a conversation with someone who's doing completely different work, but we're in the same company, same organization. So you find them in the directory, you send them a connection request or send them an email and say, would you like to have a chat over lunch? I just decided, especially in lockdown kind of situation, that I would reach out because I'm not bumping into people in the hallways. So quick story, I did an internal chat, was really interested when I was at Harvard School for Public Health. Hey, right next door, right across the street from you, right, at MassArt. And I was doing a part-time contract there, but I was really intrigued by the leadership programs they were running. So I reached out to that person because I overlapped with him in a meeting once. And I said, could we go for a walk? We had a walking chat. Then we went for another walk a couple months later and chatted again. I was just, really, really amazed by his work. And at a later point, I ended up getting asked by this leadership person if I would run a program. And I was floored. I was a consultant contractor at Harvard, and this was a program outside of Harvard School for Public Health, but that he was working on. He invited me, and I got to run an all-day program for leaders in nonprofit public health related to their career path. Never could have imagined that coming. So you never know what might happen if you go beyond those bounds, what have you. Now, have I convinced you? Quick poll. Meg's going to pop this up. Yes, no, maybe. Would you do a practice informational interview with someone here today? If the answer is yes, at the end at 8:30, we're going to have you drop your LinkedIn URL in. I'll cue you up when. You don't have to do it right now. You'll drop your LinkedIn URL in and you have this chat. Even if you're in different spaces, I don't care. You each have networks too. You might be able to help connect that person to someone else. and keep the networking going, keep the conversations going. All right, so Meg, what do we have here? I want to share that. Or we're still collecting some numbers. Oh yeah, the poll is still coming in, and we'll see. And there's no pressure in this moment, but I just kind of wanted to take a pulse to see if you're intrigued by this, and you might be willing to do so with others here today. Okay, want to share out those results?
We have 50% said yes, 25% maybe, and 25% no.
All right. So we're going to get a chance to grow your network tonight. Already have, but we're going to keep it going. So this is not the end of, this 3-part series. This is the end of the series, but it's not the end of your networking. I want this to be the beginning. Really kick it off. Really take it seriously. Think about the fact that connections you might make today, you might help them or they might help you 6 months from now or next year. You never know how things can circle back. It's powerful. Okay, moving on to, and this is just a reminder about where later on we'll have you open it up, but that's where your LinkedIn profile URL is. That's what you're going to grab. But let's move on, and I will do stop sharing here for a second. Making the ask. Who wants to share from group 2? We hate asking favors. We don't want to do this, but now you know how good it is for you. So how are you going to do it politely or professionally? Anybody want to share what might go in that blurb for how you ask? Group 2. And if you can say your name, because it's so nice for people to hear you say your name when you speak, that'd be great. Anybody? And if no, go for it. Yeah.
My name's Eileen, and we talked about just having specific questions in mind when you're approaching somebody, so it can be more targeted. That way, it's a little bit easier for them to interact with you.
Yeah. Give an idea about what you're looking for. That's great. Yeah. Anybody else want to add into that? Or is there anything else you wanted to say?
Just that if you can make the question you're asked, that also it interests them to some extent. It's something that they like to talk about, that by their sharing with you, they're going to get something out of it as well.
I like that. Something that would kind of pique their interest. Like if someone does an informational interview with me and they just want to know about how to be a career coach, I'm like, okay. But if they want to know what's it mean to be a holistic career coach and life coach, then I'm more intrigued because they're wanting to talk with me about something that's more my specialty. So that's the differentiator too. Make someone feel special because you want to know about that one thing or the fact that they did this and this combined. Something that makes them unique is a great way to ask. I'm really interested in talking to you specifically because ABC. That helps. Okay, I'm going to go share screen again and give you some script ideas. So you can see this. These, well, at least 2 of these are on my website, sabrina-woods.com. So, dear Veronica, through an alumni LinkedIn group, I discovered that you currently work in HR information management. I'd love to gain an understanding of the career path that you followed and the joys and the challenges of this kind of work. Would you be available to chat for 10-15 minutes at some point in the next few weeks? I'm typically available Wednesdays and Fridays 2 to 5. Feel free to suggest a date that works for you. Specifically adding easy way for them to say yes so that you don't have all that back and forth is a really good thing to consider. Here's, did I only have, sorry, there we go. One more example that's really narrow and more specific. I work with postdoctoral fellows at Harvard Medical School, so I created this one for them, but I thought you'd benefit from it because you want to see something that's more niche. So, dear Dr. Zhang, through our University of London alumni LinkedIn group, I discovered that you are currently doing clinical research on Parkinson's disease. I'm doing research that involves Crohn's disease and diabetes, and these put people at higher risk of developing PD, the Parkinson's, right? Therefore, I'm interested in your work and in how you went about commercializing your research and launching your company. So there's like, I love the fact that you're doing this, and I'm really curious about these elements, making it more compelling for them to say yes. Okay, group number 3, how should you prepare? Let's hear from whoever's in group number 3.
Okay, I can go.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mayuri. So I was in group 3 and we talked about LinkedIn. And we talked about looking at the LinkedIn profiles and also the website of the organization itself, kind of get prepared of the roles and responsibilities and also what the company does. I have personally changed a lot of my cover letters because I kind of try to fit in the projects that the company does and try to relate them through my work, or try to relate those projects to my work and just tell them that how interested I am. So that has been really helpful in terms of preparation, so that when I send that cover letter and after when I talk to the person, he knows what I'm talking about, and it's really easy to build a conversation and break the ice. So that was something that we talked about.
So we've got some leads for how to have those informational interviewing conversations and some ideas about customizing when it's an actual job interview, customizing your materials, some really good stuff there about customizing. That is fantastic. All right. And does anybody else want to add in from LinkedIn? What did my notes say here? Website, LinkedIn profiles, learning about that person, learning about that company to make that conversation really juicy, really good, really valuable. Anything else come to mind?
I have more of a question.
Sure.
Like the example you said, like at the end, he was like, feel free to contact me. I'm available like after 5. Like, how do you do that in terms of like being effective, but also not seeming that you're like just assuming that the person is okay with meeting because the other person still hasn't replied?
Yeah, you can play this one by ear. If it's someone you know through another person, you're thinking more likely they'll say yes, and adding those in there. If you feel uncomfortable doing that, then you can just say, in general, Fridays are great times to reach me, but I will worry, we can, once we connect, we can talk about a time. Or you leave that off completely and just say, please reach out, and we can schedule a time. Make it comfortable. That's one of the most important elements. Be yourself and do it the way that feels good to you. Yeah. So glad you brought that up. Any other questions, thoughts, suggestions? Mary Ellen?
I came in late because we had an admitted students day. So that's why I had to join you late. But Nada's question really makes me think about, if it feels too hard, kind of break it up. And as Sabrina said, make it easier for both of you to interact. And I'm going to offer one experience that I know Darlene is going to recognize. Our 2 offices hosted Fast Forward, which was a film video alumni panel discussion on Monday night. And they required their students to come, but the way that we worked with this particular department is we said, if any alums or students are interested in attending the session, would that be okay? And they were like, absolutely. So we had students from animation, illustration, sim. We even had a fibers person come. And it's such a great way to kind of learn about a MassArt alum. And then afterwards, you can send a thank you note. So one of the things that I did is I sent one and I said, I wanted to personally thank you for coming and sharing your experience. And in my second paragraph is when I noted something that really kind of resonated with me. And then the third paragraph was my ask. And I said, I co-teach a course called Financial Literacy and Careers in the fall semester. And I was just wondering if you would be willing to have an informational interview with a student who might be interested in speaking with you about your background. And 2 of the 3 alums have written back and said, I would absolutely be delighted to do it. So the power of a thank you is everybody reads a thank you note. So if you put in the subject of your email, thank you, don't don't forget about presentations that you're going to, people who are speaking, they're people and they want to know that they did a good job and that something resonated with you. So it's just another way to think about networking. And one of the keys that I think about, and I had heard long ago, was ask the interesting question when you're reaching out to somebody. As Sabrina had said, the more connected it is, the more the person's going to say, it's connected to my specialty. It's not just being a life coach, it's being a holistic life coach. Like, what does that mean? I learned while you were in the breakout session that there are doulas who are for birth and death. I didn't even know that. So what an interesting, journey you could go on through your curiosity to find out. I didn't even realize it was on the other end of life. What does that mean? So that's all I want to say.
That's fantastic ads. I especially like the thank you part. And I have seen people do thank yous on LinkedIn that recap the session that you were in and tag the presenter. That's a really nice gift to that presenter and to your community. So you've just seen this amazing session about animation, and there were 3 presenters, and you put together this thing and you say what each person, my takeaways from this session included da, 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 da. I was once at a panel for my profession, Rhode Island Career Development Association, entrepreneurship panel in Rhode Island. And I was like, this is a phenomenal panel. I took lots of notes and I did a summary on LinkedIn, and I put each panelist and I put 2 or 3 takeaways I gained from each panelist and tagged all 5 people in that LinkedIn post. Afterwards, the day later, sent them an invitation to connect on LinkedIn. And they all said yes. So we can give back before we ask. That's really feels good. Okay, I'm going to jump back and forth here, back into share screen. We're in our final 10 minutes. You're amazing to stick out a long session. It starts at 7, so appreciate you being here. Let's just go through a couple slides about this prep. We've kind of covered it, but I'm going to just do a few more details here. Plan your intro. That's why I started with this morning. Do your research and prepare your questions. This elevator pitch thing that we talked about and we have a handout for, can include these, because you need to tell people, even when you're interviewing them, you still have to present yourself. You still have to introduce yourself. And let me give you an example. So here's one. My background and my bachelor's degree was in environmental science. I've mostly worked in environmental engineering and positions related to, things like budget and finance and payroll. But I'm interested in learning more and possibly pursuing a program development role such as yours that's dedicated to climate change. And my screen I can't see because of the way this is set up, but and environmental justice. Let me show you one more that's it's a bit juicier, like it's got more content. But forgot I had the slide right here. This is the handout if it helps you to think about how to introduce yourself. But let me show you this one too, so you can really get a sense on how you can talk about yourself. This is again at the very beginning of an informational interview. You've got 20 minutes with this person. What are you going to say? So here's just another example. I'm considering a career change, targeting a position in political risk consulting. I'm especially interested in currency valuation and the effects of rapid inflation. I lived in Ghana for a few years, and their inflation is currently at 17%. It's not as high as Venezuela, but still has an impact on possible investments, not to mention the everyday lives of the people that are living there. And then you can might go on to say, so I'd like to focus on analysis and advising related to this issue. I really appreciate having the chance to talk to you. I'd like to hear more about your work as an analyst at PwC and the work that you did in West Africa. So here I am. I know this one's more complicated. It's got a lot of meat to it, but I'm setting myself up to help the individual who I'm talking to understand me a bit more and where I'm coming from and the kind of information that I want by having a more developed intro like this. It's really specific. So most people wing your introduction to an information when you start to talk in an informational interview. I want you to be thoughtful about yours. so that people know something important about you and you make a good connection right away. Okay, the other thing will be to do this just different research. So information could include research on, we already said this, right? This has already got mentioned by May Yuri. Their LinkedIn profile, Google search their name, the company's website, has the organization been in the news is another one that's really helpful. Okay, my last couple of slides are hang on one second. Yeah, questions that you can ask during the informational interview so that you feel prepared. So you want them to be relevant to the person and relevant to you, and you want them to be open-ended, so not yes, no questions. And you think about this as this opportunity to learn about the organization, but get advice and suggestions from them. And the other sort of piece is, by the questions that you ask, you can show off your own talents and abilities and your knowledge of the company. You can ask a more sophisticated question if you've done some research, right? And you know what's going on at that organization, and you can really make this amazing impression on them. So these are going to be emailed to you, these list of questions, so you don't have to worry if about scrambling to write them down right now. But you can talk about job content. I like finding out, hey, can you tell me what a typical week is like? Or not just what's satisfying, what do you find hard? What are some of the difficulties in the work that your department has to do or your role has to handle? What abilities have helped contribute to your success? That's a really nice one to ask. What are those talents or characteristics or experiences that helped make you be successful? And then we can move on and we can talk about career path. How did yours develop? So you might say things ranging from, what are the typical career paths in this field, especially if you're just starting out? How did you end up landing here? I'd love to hear that story. Can you tell me about, typical entry-level opportunities that you typically see at your organization or in the field in general? Just trying to get a better idea, the different starting points. And then we can move in. We've got one more category here, and that is preparation. What does it take? Other professional societies or organizations that might be good to help support me and for me to learn and grow. What advice would you give someone who's interested in this kind of work? So these, can't forget this one, the most important question. I bet you Mary Ellen would nod when I'm saying this, and that is, wow, it's been fantastic to talk to you today. I'm wondering, is there anyone else you could recommend I speak with? I would love to just keep these conversations going. I find them so fruitful. So you just have an opportunity to pitch to them to have them give you some more context. Now, the very last piece, and I'm on time. I always worry I'm going to run over. So I'm relieved I'm going to get you out on time from this session. But let's talk about the keeping in touch piece and that thank you note. When I suggest my clients send thank you notes, I like to include a couple things. One, what did you learn from the conversation? I learned that, So nice to feel heard when I do an informational interview by hearing back what that person learned. The second thing that's really, really fantastic is what action you might take because of something they said. Again, they're going to feel valued if you're specific. Thank you for that recommendation about that checking out videos on YouTube. I have already checked out a couple and they're fantastic. I really thought that was a great tip that you gave me, and I'm going to continue to do that. Or whatever it is. That was a tip I gave to someone in an informational interview recently was, you're trying to learn about the career field. Go look up resume interviewing cover letter on YouTube and watch videos. So, and then if you aren't already connected, connect with people by sending them that individual request. Now, the last part is, how do you stay in touch? This is like, oh gosh, I'll clients that'll say, oh, Sabrina, I have a connection, but I feel really awkward. I haven't talked to them for 3 years. Oh, darn it. Next time, be better in touch. But you can still reach out to someone, but let's think about how to stay in touch. first thing I would do is when you do when you do reach out to the next person, let the first person know, so I might say, Mary Ellen, thank you so much for connecting me with Cassandra at NYU. I had such a great chat with her and really appreciated the connection. So you let that original person know that you did the reach out and had a good chat when you've been referred to somebody. Other things that you can do is you can send a congrats email when you learn that something cool has happened at that organization, or you see an accomplishment on LinkedIn. Here's the other ticket I would do. Pretend you do an informational interview tomorrow. This is March, April, May, mid-May. Put a note on your calendar on the 18th to go look to see if there's something going on with the organization, just so you can proactively reach out to them. Stay top of mind to your network by sharing that you've seen something in the news about them, or look for an article that you think would be right up their alley and be really useful to them, and send it to them in an email. Share a little bit about how you're doing and that you thought this could be an interesting post and you wanted to send it their way. Find these little nuanced reasons to reach out. And the last one is let them know when you've landed a new role. It is phenomenal to hear back when someone says, I've landed, I'm doing XYZ, and just wanted to say thank you again for being part of my process and for helping me to learn a little bit or do this or give me some exposure to that. But that final thing is just the nicest message to get. Now, in our last couple of minutes, this is your invitation. Open up your LinkedIn profile, grab that top URL, and if you'd like, and we can all save the chat at the end, I'll tell you how to do that in a second, but if you want, name, target job or industry, and your LinkedIn URL, so people will have a little sense, or put a little message in there about the kinds of people you're hoping to talk to, or what have you. And then you connect on LinkedIn, and then you open up and you say, okay, we're going to do mutual informational interviews, right? Let's do an informational interview for each other, and set aside 10 or 15 minutes for that. When you reach out, give the other person a couple of dates and times. Probably 2 weeks out is your best bet. Makes it faster so you don't have to go through the annoying back and forth. So I'll let you open up chat now.
Jahari has a semi-related question.
Yeah, go for
it. Well, first I want to say, I think I have a job interview tomorrow, and I think some of these questions are actually helpful for that space as well. If somebody didn't have time or didn't think of informational interviews. But anyways, my question was about staying in touch and thinking about, okay, you have this network, somebody sent you here, but you don't take the job, right? But you still think they're an amazing organization or community to be a part of, and how to go about that when you kind of didn't necessarily, I don't want to say didn't follow through, because we have options, but how to keep a relationship when you denied an offer.
So yeah, you've turned them down. So you feel kind of sheepish and you're like, oh, but I really like them, but it just wasn't right for right now. Same thing can apply, right? You can go find something about them, send a message, and you're going to say, I really wanted you to know how much I enjoyed interviewing with your organization. While the job wasn't quite right at that time point, I wanted to continue to stay in touch. And when I saw this, I thought of you and I really wanted to forward it your way. So you be honest about it, forthright about it, but you say how much you like that organization. And you can say, when I saw this in my thread, or I saw this on Instagram, I just wanted you to know I was thinking of you, and congratulations for that job well done, or I wanted to share this particular article with you, or this post, and send it their way. So be brave. And that's a mature thing to do, right? So I think you're going to get some sort of some points for, they don't have to reply, but you can do this. And then even if you don't hear back, I would do it again in 3 months, send them another message. This is that tenacity coupled with courage. If you can take that and allow yourself to be a little bit out of your comfort zone with your networking, man, 9 times out of 10, it's going to serve you well to have that tenacity and have that courage, right? So I love that question. Thank you for doing that. And hopefully everybody's putting their contact information into the chat. I should really go and grab mine really quickly. Let me do that. Give me 30 seconds to pull my own up so I can connect with each of you. And we are right at time.
And can I
And
offer one
so-
more comment?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think is really helpful to keep in mind is that everybody loves a happy ending. So wherever you might be in your process, it's always nice to hear from someone who you had given your time to and what happened to them. So it's kind of where are you in your story and how they helped you. And the other thing to do is when you write something that you're thinking, oh, I need to be diplomatic, is look at it from that person's perspective. That, you know, it's put yourself in their shoes and look at the words that you're offering and seeing if it comes across as kind to you for what you want to impart.
Love that. Kind. If it passes the kindness check, hit send. That's your intention. In case people have to bow out right now, I want to make sure you know how to save chat. Open up the whole chat box. Look for the 3 dots. They're tiny in the lower right-hand corner of the chat box. And it will allow you to save chat so that you don't have to scramble to get all of these. Yeah, and you'll be able to at least connect on LinkedIn with each other. And also just see how you can support one another. We go so much further and we have such a better experience when we're there to help one another. It really makes a difference, especially right now when we feel icky, and this makes it better, right? So thank you so much for bringing me in and letting me serve you in this way, share this content. You get stuck, you need a question, ping me on LinkedIn, ask me the hard stuff. Let me see how I can help, and hope our paths will cross again.
Sorry to interrupt, but is it all right to ask a couple of questions before you go? Do you have a few minutes?
Yeah, that's up to MassArt. I've got another minute or two if
Sure. I'd just like to thank everybody, and then if you want to stay on for a minute after. Okay. I just want to say many thanks to you all for joining us for the workshop this evening, and to Sabrina for sharing her wonderful advice and tips on informational interviews, showing up in a virtual space, and staying connected. I also want to thank Melanie Blood, Ed Maloof, and Tim Power, who are on our Alumni Leadership Council. They've been working with us very closely to grow our LinkedIn group. And Ed is here with us tonight. If Ed wants to wave, I know he's commented a few times. And we hope that you all now have great takeaways that you can implement right away to help you grow your professional network and stay connected with fellow students and the other alums at MassArt. I pasted in a bunch of links for you for our LinkedIn group and our LinkedIn page, and these are great networks for you to tap into. And also encourage you to check out massart.edu for all the benefits and services offered by Alumni Relations and Career Development. We hope you enjoyed tonight, and we look forward to seeing you at future events. And anybody who wants to stay and ask a few more questions of Sabrina, you're more than welcome to.
And and I know, yeah, we've got a couple people, and I wanted to say really quickly back to Jahari, because there was comments in the chat. Are you looking for a doula? Are you looking to do an informational interview with someone who's a birthing doula?
Yeah, I've actually, like, I didn't realize I had already started technically doing informational interviews, but
Yeah.
I am.
Okay, Matt, can you grab my LinkedIn or jot down my email and send me a message about what you're interested in? I'm gonna forward it to my friend and colleague Linda. So
Thank
just
you.
grab my LinkedIn and send me a LinkedIn message, and I'll see if I can connect you that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You bet. Happy to. All right. So, Mayuri, what was your question? And then we'll go to Carol.
Oh no, I was just waving to say goodbye.
Oh, okay.
Right,
No
see ya.
problem. Okay. Bye. Anybody have a question?
Yeah, I can go. I was wondering,
Okay.
first of all, like, is it possible to have too many connections on LinkedIn?
I hope not, because I have like 7,000. So there you go. I would worry.
Yeah. And then I was
Everybody has a different philosophy about it, but I'm fine with having a large number of connections. Yeah.
And then I was wondering if, like, for people who view, like, I don't have premium, I can only see like 2 or 3 people who view my profile, but there are some people who view my profile and don't connect with me. Like, do you suggest, like, if I find their profile interesting to reach out to them, or is it a little stalkerish?
I've seen people do that. Hey, I know, dear Sabrina, I noticed that you happened to view my profile. When I saw your background, I was really intrigued. I thought it would be great to connect.
Mm.
Yeah, you can do that. And by the way, I don't have premium. I have free. Everything I do and teach as a trainer is off the free account, just to make you feel like, oh, okay, if she can do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Sabrina, I'm trying to save the chat and
Yeah.
I'm clicking on the chat and
So-
there's nothing that says save chat.
Yeah, what you do is you look for these tiny, tiny 3 little dots in the lower right-hand corner. I mean, they're really, really, really small.
It's like a
You've got the
rounded
box open.
square box with 3 little
There's
dots.
a little
in it.
square with 3 tiny dots in it, lower
Oh,
right-hand
okay.
corner.
It's
When you
in
pop that
chat,
3
Heather.
dots open, it'll
You
then
may
give
need
you
to
the
pull
option.
your chat window down further to get to it.
Oh, okay, maybe that's it.
You've got to be where you can actually type a chat message. You have to be able to see where you could type in.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, and then you'll see a little gray box
Yeah,
way off to the right, lower
Yeah.
corner.
I see
Top,
the sent.
click. Yep, click on the 3 dots.
Oh, no, it's a sent thing. It's the icon for that.
Well, let me ask this, Meg, can you save chat? And when you send out the additional handout with the questions on it, can you include the save chat?
Heather,
Yes.
if you open up the chat and you see where it says type message here, just look in the upper right-hand corner of that little box, and it's you'll see. Do you see the?
No, there's no,
dots?
there's no dots for me.
Okay.
Why don't we just, if Meg's gonna send out the handout, Meg, do you
Thank
want
you
to
very
just?
much. I'm sorry for the trouble, but I'm not seeing any dots on my iPad. Maybe that's why.
Okay.
Oh, that might be it. Okay.
Oh, okay. Meg, are you okay doing that? I'm just gonna double check with her. Okay, so I'm gonna sign off because I haven't even had dinner yet. It's been a long day. But thank you so much for being here. And again, you can send me questions via LinkedIn. And I wish you guys all the best. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank
Thank
you all for
you.
coming. Thank you,
Bye.
Sabrina. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Right.